a little early so that I don't have a hardware or software tantrum. Um, because 2 streams ago, I was having technical issues, and some of that came through. Um, Dan is just setting up here. We're going to process a whole ribeye, and we've got steamed zucchini, and be busting out some Santa Maria cheesy taters.
Some more of that Godzilla's leg.
The giant zook.
Since I have so much of it.
So thank you for being back with us. If you're with us, if you're seeing this live, or if you're seeing this on the time machine, thank you to our new subscribers. I'm going to get on the computer and resub to everybody who's subbed to us. We're doing a portrait format tonight, so you can kind of see the board and the stove at the same time.
You'll see when I kind of get it over, because I'm going to be doing some, I'm going to steam the zucchini, get that off into a bowl. This Williams Sonoma or something steamer pan a buddy of mine gave me. He had too much stuff, and I got way more stuff than he does. So if he's got too much stuff, then I got way too much stuff. So we'll get that in. Put the one off the floor. And I did kind of work out the problems with last night's cook. We're having problems with the breadcrumbs burning in the pan. So, what I did do is I found my little steamer baskets, and I went to using a pot. When I did the cleanup on the pans, it wasn't the cornstarch that was the problem, it was the panko. So, if you're going to do that, I would recommend getting a small fry basket and layer it into a deep pot. Because what the problem is, the panko was falling off and burning on the bottom of the pan. And as the oil dissipated, that became a little bit of a problem. Now I do salt these because I want them to drop their water. That'll help them cook a little faster. And this is kind of a neat little steamer pan. It actually locks, but that won't happen until they start steaming. So we'll let those start. Let me get one of my baby boards. I think I'll work off of this one. We're going to be doing a few things tonight at once. For the cheesy potatoes, what I want you to do is take just regular baked potatoes. I microwave these because I'm going to finish them in the oven. So we're going to start with those. We're going to get back to those in a little bit. I'm going to take an entire cube of butter, for all of us that love butter. And we're going to melt that. And get that going. Hopefully I know I won't have to turn on the fan tonight. I might cheat though instead of going on the grill because it's still pouring rain, I haven't decided if I want to use, I think I'll use cast iron. And we're going to do a couple steaks for supper in the cast iron pan. I was supposed to put some onion in there. I'll do that real quick. I kind of cheat when I do my onions. I cut the ends off, and what I do is I score it. Onions are cheap, and I have plenty of them, and I don't want to spend all day messing with an onion. Peel it out, get it nice and clean. Onion adds a nice flavor. And I just cut some rings. Take the lid off this real quick. All this is going to drop a ton of water and it'll settle down. As soon as it starts getting hot, steam's already coming up from the bottom. So that'll settle down in a minute. Now, as we can see, we got our butter here. We're going to do on that, I'm going to reach over. This is a dish I used to cater with, but I'd use red potatoes or Yukon Golds. Today I'm using russet. And we're going to take about a teaspoon and a half of Santa Maria and stir it in the butter. You can see, here's what Santa Maria looks like. A lot of cracked pepper in there. It's a great seasoning, and it's very versatile. So, spoons again. So since a teaspoon and a half is about the same thing as a tablespoon, I'll do that. Yeah, maybe. So that's going to sit off the side right now. And we're going to get back to Santa Maria because that's what I'm going to season steaks with. It's my favorite. I want to just do that. So Scott's Santa Maria seasoning is awesome on tri-tips. It's the original formula. It's been around for 35 years. Changed packaging a few times. This is the current new packaging. That'll be part of my giveaway for sure. They also have another one I might use tonight on the zucchini called Strictly Pepper. It's what I typically use for my prime rib seasonings, as well as my garlic oil, which isn't around right now. I don't know where it is.
I'll get it.
But the recipe for a good prime rib seasoning, I'm going to show you a little bit on the prime rib. How you can season the inside, and we're going to tie it. If you get a bone-in prime rib, I hope to get what we call export ribs. If I can get an export during the holidays, I'll show you how to 3/4 of the way or 9/10 of the way, bone it off the bone, season it under the bone and into the middle of the roast, and tie it back on. So when it cooks, the meat that's on the edge of the bone will kind of shrink up, and the bone will act as a rack. So you don't have to put a rack in the bottom, and you can collect all your juices in the bottom, and make your gravy or au jus or whatever you want to do with it. And all you have to do is cut the strings. The roast will come off the bone. You can put that on the board to rest. And you'll be able to make nice slices, smaller or bigger or any size you want for who you're serving. We'll give you roast temperatures and everything that you need to know for cooking a roast and getting it exactly to what you want. As we know, anytime we cook a roast, the ends are going to be more done than the middle. So what we typically do, I run 2 probes when I do a roast. Since we know the middle's going to be the rarest and the end's going to be the most well done, I go in between the middle and the end if I'm using 1 probe. Because if the middle's more rare than the middle of the middle, then you'll have real rare in the middle and medium on the outside and medium rare at your probe. If you cut the roasts in thirds, you kind of go in between. You kind of know what the end's doing, the middle's doing, and everything also on both ends. Because one side of the roast is slightly larger than the other. So you can kind of tool it. Since you know at rest, the roast is going to climb at least 5 degrees over the next 15 minutes. So with that being true, because you'll pull it out, you'll wrap it in foil and you'll let it sit, because you want all the juice that's been bleeding out and is sealed in the roast. That's what the garlic oil helps do on the outside. We blast the roast at about 500 degrees, let all that oil seep into the pores and stop the juices from going out, trap them so it's inside the roast. The roast actually blows up like a balloon. So, but all the juices are trying to push to the outside of the roast from the center. So when we take it and we change the temperature, not the cooking temperature, the room temperature from the oven temperature, the juices, with that immense change in temperature, the roast is cooler on the outside and hotter in the middle. The juices go back towards the middle, and as it cools, they rest. So then when you slice your roast at rest, the juice is actually in the roast and not out of the roast. If you slice your roast right out of the oven, the juice just bleeds all over your table. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but you can end up with a dry roast if it was a lean roast. You want to always let your meat rest, even steaks. If you cut them right away, right hot off the grill, the second they go, that you're going to end up having blood all over your plate, which is okay for some people. But I want blood in my meat, so when I'm chewing it, I'm getting that flavor. So we'll get, as we get a little closer to the holidays, we're going to do a little more with that. When I process this roast today, I'm going to trim it up. I'm going to tie a roast. My birthday is in 2 days. I'll be 57. I haven't decided what I'm going to cook for my birthday. I'm hoping we're going to get some sunny weather. I'd like to sit out on the back porch and smoke a whole brisket. But if that doesn't happen and it stays wet and drizzly and my porch is full of rain, it's not too fun to have rain dripping on your head all day. We have a few leaks on the back porch. That I'm going to come in and probably roast off a prime rib, and then I'm going to probably do it. I might do it on the smoker, or I might do it in the oven. If it's a small roast, which is what it's going to be, it's going to roughly serve 4 to 6 people, which is the most common size that a lot of people serve during the holidays. But some of you guys are going to do a full 7-bone, which I do during Christmas for our personal household. And we'll invite a bunch of friends over, and that's what we'll have. Let's see how this is doing. It's doing fine. Start to settle down to where I can actually close the lid. So, I want to finish off the zucchini and move it off to the side a bit. And what I can do, there's really not much to processing a ribeye. Um, Basically, most of the stuff I can do on the board, and that's basically cutting steaks. It's relatively easy. You need two things you need: a very sharp knife and a good board. Um, if you're not proficient with a knife, I'm a right-hander, so if I wasn't proficient with a knife, but I am, I would wear a cut glove on my left side. I do have a bunch of them laying around the house. I use them mostly with fish to keep them from spiking my hand. Um, it's a knife cut glove, so you don't slide through your hand, or it's got like a Kevlar weave and mesh in it. Keeps fish from spiking me in the hand when I'm filleting them, because a lot of the fish I'll fillet, they'll still be live, because I want to get the meat off. I want to get it packed as fresh as I can. So I typically use a cut glove in case I hit a scale and my hands and my knife slips or something like that. You guys that are having problems scaling fish, here's a great suggestion for you. When I was used to commercially scale fish, we cut them in the markets and boats and stuff like that. We use a horse curry comb to scale the fish. You want to talk about scaling fast and covering all the scales and not have to worry about dulling the knife. You drag that curry comb against the scales, they'll go flying all over the place. So if you're doing it on a stainless table, you're going to have fun, because scales stick to stainless like glue. The way to remove them is a handful of ice. You rub it on the scale will come off, and then you rinse everything down. But you can scale really fast and really well, and you don't have to push down really hard or anything, just run it. Because a curry comb is a round comb like this, with an inner round comb, with an inner round comb, with an inner round comb, and it's all got a bunch of teeth. So when you're scaling the whole fish one swipe at a time. Some people like to scale trout. They have very small scales. I've never had too much problem with it. You can do that with the back of a knife almost. But bass, salmon, steelhead, salmon chinook, coho, kokanee, catfish, there's a few other ways to do it. Catfish have a square rib cage like a shark almost. I usually straight fillet them, then I flip them over and skin them. If you like to cook the whole fish, put a nail in their head and take a pair of needle nose pliers and roll them up and just peel the whole thing. It'll just come completely right off. You can just strip peel them and then cook. If they're small catfish like this, you can just cook the whole fish and the meat will fork off the bones. For the guys on my hunting channel, I haven't put Oregon hunting. There's a couple guys that are on here now. They wouldn't let me put it on the Oregon fishing channel. They kind of blocked me from promoting my page. Kind of lame. But for the hunters out there, if they get some game, they're going to maybe bring some into me, and I'm going to make some custom sausage, and we'll smoke a little. We'll smoke some of the whole meat. We'll make some jerky. And I used to make seafood sausage. I might make some of that. I'm trying to get a line on some ahi and maybe some sword. I'd like to smoke some halibut belly in particular. I got to make a phone call next week on that. Call some of the guys I used to work with. I used to work with Pacific Seafood in San Diego. They have a Pacific Seafood up here in Charlotte. So I'll call them and see if I can get an inside connection to be able to do some seafood for you guys. I'm going to do a salt and pepper shrimp, which is easy. It's actually one of my favorite ways to have shrimp. It's got this really nice little light crispy coating on it, and just salt and pepper. And the shrimp are nice size. They're big. So you get that nice snap sweetness of the shrimp with a little crunchy coating and just salt and pepper on it. They're great. And of course, I could do scampi with maybe a fettuccine alfredo or a garlic and white wine sauce on linguine with fresh basil, or maybe even a little pesto in there. Um, So there's a lot of options. We're going to be doing a lot of in between dishes for the non holidays, but I want to get some holiday ones up for you. I'm going to do a turkey process probably 1st of November, and that'll go up right away. And that'll also talk to you about how you're holding your turkey, when to bring it out. Before you cook it, cooking times, temperatures, seasonings, stuffings, different styles, whole bunch of different stuff, options for you and your family during the holidays. I want to try and make things as easy as possible because everything's so hectic during the holidays. If you can prep a lot of this stuff in advance, when it comes the day for the holiday, all you're doing is pulling it out, putting it in the oven, pulling it out, putting it in the oven. We might brine a bird, which is, it's pretty easy. It's just apple juice and kosher salt and a little more sugar, and you wrap it in a like a big trash bag, and you roll it around for a couple of days in a cooler. So we might go that route, and leave you guys some options. Tell you what turkeys I prefer. Um, I don't like any turkey that's been injected with water or oil or any of that. I want an all natural bird. I don't care if it, I prefer fresh, but if I can't get a fresh bird, almost all birds are frozen. They just don't tell you that because what they do is they flash freeze them at negative 30 degrees and put them in a box because you can't produce a million birds right before Thanksgiving. There's just no way. So they flash freeze them, keep their temperature down real low, almost stops them from bleeding. Then they put them in real low temp coolers, almost at zero. So they're almost frozen, but they're not, but they're frozen, but they're not. So I did an inspection at Zaki Farms in Fresno when Zaki was still around. Foster's has taken over that plant. And what they do was some of these turkeys, you got Safeway brand and you got Albertson's brand and you got maybe the independent market has its own brand. And well, when you go to the plants, the markets order from the plant and the markets supply their label and the turkeys get wrapped with the market's label and the market just charges you an extra 20 cents a pound to buy their brand. So it's their brand. It's the same brand as most of the other turkeys, but it's just got their label on it and not Zaki. So that's how that works. I'm going to let all the little secrets, cats out of the bag for what's going on with some of this stuff. This is almost done, so we're almost done with the zucchini. And then I'm going to move those guys somewhere over here on the backside, let them rest, and I'll transfer them to a bowl, add a little butter to them. I might throw some Santa Maria on them because it's basically cracked black pepper, garlic, sea salt, thyme, and a little cane juice. And they use a little silica in there, which is basically sand, or a glass bead or something like that. It non-harmful. But what it does is an anti-caking material. If you live in a high humidity area, you'll notice your seasonings start to cake up. My seasonings, we run a dehumidifier inside the house, but also if my seasonings start caking up, I take the little packet for my vitamins and I stick it in my seasonings, and that'll prevent your seasonings from turning hard as a rock, and you having to take a knife and go to get your favorite seasonings out. Um, as far as the giveaway, I want to do the giveaway where we do a marinade and 2 seasonings, or a marinade, a seasoning, and a garlic oil. Scott's has said we have no problem doing that. We'll do a couple of them at our 100 subscribers. We'll do them again at 500. We'll do them again at 1,000. When I hit 1,000, I'm going to give away a Z Grills. I've talked to the guys over at Z Grills. They're going to set me up with a grill for me to give away to when we hit 1,000 subscribers. You guys will all be put in a pool, and we'll see who comes down with Z Grills. Maybe I'll be able to give away 3. They have a couple things that I'm available to work with. Maybe one of the flagship grills or something like that, like I use, and 2 smaller grills for either apartments, back porch, even to take on a camp trip where you could hook it up to an inverter. I'm trying to see if they're going to work on a actually camp version where you could run it off a small battery or have a battery pack, which would be very cool. Run a little smoker. You're just camping with your tent. You got your little smoker out there running it off a battery pack. That'd be bomb. You have a solar recharge, have some solar panels on side, recharge your battery, and cook whatever you want. You could even smoke some stuff for a couple days later, pack. Do that as your base camp, and then leave out from there. I don't know. I'm trying to give you guys a lot of options. My channel is a lot different. I like the guys at Bearded Butchers. I wish I had cooler space and hanging carcass and was able to do the stuff that they do. We're a lot similar, but we're a lot different. They did a great video on a full side of beef showing you where the parts come from off the actual cow. And I think they did a pretty good job on the explanation. They can kind of show you if you have questions on that. You can ask me. I'll be happy to answer questions. They just did some deer stuff as well. I just saw them do grind deer. I want to do deer sausage. I'm going to do some smoked. I might do ropes. I'd like to do a smoked deer roast. We'll do an injected. I want to get some more bleed time on that roast. I'd like to do some elk. I absolutely love elk. I think it's probably in North America, there's only 2 meats I think are top. I used to eat reindeer on Christmas, which most people say is sacrilegious, which is caribou. And we do have a little bit in Wyoming and the Northwest. Most of it's in Canada and further north. It is so good. Oh my God. It's so good that you don't really want to marinate. You just want to season it with an accent season. Like I'd put Santa Maria on it and straight grill it. It's so good. Elk, same way. I'd straight just a little bit of seasoning to accent the flavor and straight grill it. Now, deer tends to be a little more like lamb. It tends to be a little more gamey. There's a couple of methods some of the guys I've run across over the years, and some of the old grandmas that are out there that are been doing game meats for as long as they could stand up, that came out of the Great Depression and could tell you dang near everything you need to know about every meat on the planet, that at one time came in whole pieces and the butcher cut it for you. And that's where the old knowledge comes in to meet the new knowledge. Is, we're coming up with different ways to cook it, but the base way is still the old way. You know, because sometimes it's too strong for some people. Mutton, which is old lamb, typically used in Scotland and Ireland and a lot of the European area. It's very similar to goat. It's a extremely slow and low cook. You just want it to go all day long. But it's very tough and it can be very strong. So to counter the flavors with it, you're going to use special herbs and spices, and you might cure it or marinate it, or some people soak things in milk to draw the blood out, and a whole bunch of different ways to do that. We'll try and, you know, if I get somebody that really wants to learn on something like that, I'll go get a piece and we'll do it a couple different ways and we'll see what the options are. Um, so we're almost done steaming here. That looks perfect. You guys can see it. It's nice and tender. I can see the color has gone to the zucchini. Let me move that off my grill and we'll do a little quick something. And then I'm going to process that roast and we'll start cooking. So, let me get a trivet. And if you don't know what a trivet is basically it's a thing you can set hot things on that won't burn your counter or something like that. I don't trust that handle. Okay. And I do love butter. So, we do go through a lot of butter. That's off. Good. So we're going to do, since I'm doing steak, I always like sauteed mushrooms on my steak. So, I'm going to make sauteed mushrooms. And our household loves garlic. So, you got Scott's garlic oil here. This will help the butter from burn. Put just a little drizzle, about a capful. Instead of using salt, I'm just going to give it a light shake with Santa Maria once that gets melted. Let me wash the mushrooms. We'll go to the board. All right. When I cut my mushrooms, I always like to lay the stem down Gives me more stability. When I was living in Arizona, hottest place on earth, there was a person that absolutely hated mushrooms, which is kind of strange to me. I love mushrooms. Her name was Tandy. She was, at the time, a girlfriend of a friend of mine who does a mushroom farm in Las Vegas. His name's Daniel Bolin. You want to look him up? He lost his entire crop in that extreme heat we had this summer. And we're going to be doing something with some special mushrooms, which we have tons of them around here in Oregon. Special mushrooms. I'm going to get some chanterelles and some oysters and stuff like that. We'll be doing a couple different dishes with those. I'd love to get some morel. Whether that happens or not, they're very expensive. You know, anything I can get with that, you know, we can work with. Oysters are not too bad. Chanterelles are not too bad. Let's get these rolled around. Get that heat up. I don't know why I got on low. Oh, because I'm melting butter. And again, when you're doing mushrooms, they got a lot of water. Most people probably don't know that. Here we go. Santa Maria. I keep a Santa Maria in my tackle box, just in case I'm out somewhere and I get the urge. Start a little campfire, or I have camp stove with me, and what I'll do is just fire that little thing up, and if I'm catching fish, I'll make lunch right where I'm at. Why leave if I'm catching fish? It works for a lot of different things. You could use it as a fajita seasoning. I would say it's a little plain for that. I would go Baja Spicy is better. But if it's what you got, that and a squeeze of lemon juice, and you mix it with some veg and some fish or something, you go right into a grill pan or a little pan on a little stove and just break out tortillas, and right there on the beach, eat. We used to do that with lobster. I used to lobster dive a lot in California. I'll see if I can find some of those pics, and I'll post some. Did a lot of night diving from Dana Point area all the way up to Corona Del Mar, Scotsman's Cove. One of my favorite beaches, favorite diver beach up there is Shaw's Cove or Diver's Cove. But those are protected areas. I like Crescent, and El Moro Point, which is a little better diving area. I've gotten rock scallops back in the old days before abalone was banned. I've gotten abalone. I've gotten abalone off 204 Reef in San Clemente. That's a long swim. That's about over a quarter mile swim straight out to the reef. You don't get very good visibility. And when you get out to the reef, you're in pretty good shape, as long as you don't get run over by a boat or a jet ski coming out of Dana Point Harbor. So the thing is with mushrooms, you can see they're starting to shrink down now. They're starting to drop that water. When mushrooms start out, they're about this stage. They're kind of slimy, kind of like when you get them out of a pickle jar. And to me, slimy is not too appealing. It's kind of like okra. When you start to cook it, it turns gooey, like paste or slime all over it. So I think people that don't like mushrooms are because they've had it at this point. So you just keep working these mushrooms down till they get down on the pan and they start getting some char on them. This is a non-stick pan, it doesn't matter. I got a little butter in there. If I want to add a little more, that's fine. But I'm going to work these suckers down until they start getting really brown. They drop all this water and they get very small and they start getting char, like that one's getting charred right there. And you're going to run that high heat, I would say medium high, and just keep moving them around. You don't want them to stick, but you definitely want them to get to where you want them to go. So once we get this done, the potatoes are super easy. As we already made the butter mixture, and I have sharp cheddar and I have cheddar jack shredded in there. When I usually do this, and I'm going to do the same, I take the butter mixture, I make it, I dice up green onions, I add it to the butter mixture, so I have onions and then all that flavor. I take the potatoes, we're going to show you, I'm going to quarter them and I'm going to open them up like a flower. And then I'm going to put them in a casserole dish, and usually I use Parmesan cheese or Romano or some of the hard white cheeses when I'm doing them. But what I'm using today, we're going to go cheddar and jack, because that's what I happen to have on hand. What I was buying for different various things in the house. You can use any kind of cheese you want. I'm going to add a little more butter to this. And I'm going to bring the heat down slightly. This burner gets really hot. That's one thing I really don't like about an induction stovetop. I really love gas, but we don't have gas where we live. The induction stovetops are really hard to control temperature on. 1 minute you're too hot, the next minute you're too cold. Next minute it's not where it wants to be. Get back in there. Mushrooms are getting there right now. Go back to medium. That little propane grill I was using the other day, that thing gets screaming hot. I have to watch my flame on that. These are getting there now. They'll probably 3-4 minutes. They'll be done. I'll move those off to a pot. What I'm going to try and do is we'll try and adjust the cam and zoom it for a few minutes to the board after these mushrooms finish. And I'll process this rib roast because there's some things I want you guys to see that you probably don't know about a rib roast. Another good thing, if you're growing herbs, your mushroom bottoms work great as a planter for starts on your herbs or herb, whatever it may be. You can put potting soil and a little bit of sand, a little bit of pea gravel, make a nice mesh so your roots don't get root rot, and do your starts in there till they get going, and then transplant. That way you don't have to buy a bunch of little pots to do that stuff with. Pots for your pot, or pots for whatever you're making. All right. we're going to say call this done. And I am done with hot stuff over here for a while. But we decided to cook steak. So, that's hot. So we got mushrooms. Mushrooms will sit over there till when we're finished. Speaking of hot mushrooms, I was getting hot. I need something to drink.
Those are sizzling. Those look good.
I'm going to start my oven. Kind of undecided what I want to use. I think I want to use what I always use, but I don't know where they are. Where's my casserole dishes?
They should be right there, sweetie.
Yeah, this one. I want to use this glass casserole dish. I don't want to set it on a hot burner. I don't want to have it explode. So what we want to do is the baked potato. So we're going to cut it 3 times. I'm going to put it over here in the corner. Start setting these up. Now, if you're using Yukon Golds or red potatoes, they're typically round, which is kind of nice because everything will be consistent for people you're serving. They'll all be the same pretty much. This usually none left ever, so give them a little scrunch. Open them up a little bit. This is a nice dish for the holidays if you want to do it in advance because you can bake your potatoes first. They can be cooled sitting in your fridge or you can put them in your dish. So we got that. Since I haven't diced my green onion yet, let's take care of that. Put my nice melted butter up here. Some people call this end of the green onion the chive. Then the white end is the green onion. Usually, we had a discussion about this the other day. It was actually kind of funny. What part of the green onion do you use first? Well, typically if I was cooking with the green onion, I would use the white part of the onion and finish with the chivy part at the end, and the middle kind of some goes in some end, some goes in the other. So and we have our buttery mixture. If I was using Parmesan or hard Jack or Romano, I would put it in here and I would just do this. This is a catering dish I used to do when I used to cater in California. I used to cater in an area called Newport Beach, California. I had my own company called the Barbecue Experience. It's kind of like the Hendrix experience with barbecue. If it walks, swims, or flies, I can kill it, cook it, and fix it right up. I had that for about 5 years, did high-end wine tastings, a lot of specialty meats, high-end soups and stuff like that. I'd do a seafood chowder with swordfish, ahi, mahi. So you got this going on. Now let's do a little cheese. This alone is actually a pretty damn good dish and really good with Parmesan and stuff like that to do the side to steaks and Italian and stuff like that. But since we have these, and some people like lots of cheese it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to really cheese it up. What I'm going to do is put that in the broiler when I'm ready to go. I'm just warming the oven so it doesn't take so long. And we're going to go to processing that ribeye. So, show you the start dish of that. That's super simple. Baked potato, butter, a little diced green onion, a little bit of Santa Maria in the butter. Mix it all together, spoon it over your baked potato, add cheese, and you'll see what comes out when I set up the final plate. So this goes aside. Clean up my area. Break out the cast iron. After last night's fun dish, definitely have to do a good wipe on it. That's the advantage of cast iron. Really don't just wipe it out. Spray it out, scrape it out, wipe it out. You're done. Sometimes I use a grill pan. I like my steaks basted in butter. So it gets start doing its thing. And the brown rag. Wipe my handle. Okay. Ugh. Let me get that nice low and let that work its way through. Now we're going to go to the board. Make some room so you guys can see some. 2 knives I use for this. We'll leave this here because I'll put the steaks up there when I get ready to do them. Right there. Okay. What I have, it's a choice ribeye. Pretty nice looking ribeye. It's a little thin, but It graded out his choice, and the ends look fantastic. So anytime you open these, be sure to do it over the sink. Typically, they got a lot of blood, and you don't want blood everywhere. Look for it. Okay. Water. Two new knives I use for this. Most meat cutters will use their standard staker. I use a 10-inch Stanton. I use a boning knife. I use a boning knife to do my trimming, and I'm going to see if Essie can bring the cam over my shoulder for some of this. Can you, Ess?
I was trying to remote control it from the... I'll come with it. I was trying to remote control it from the laptop.
Because I want to show you what you really need to remove. I'm going to go wash up in the restroom. I'll be right back. I need my asthma medicine. I'm a little wheezy with the rain and stuff, so I need to hit an inhaler. Man, that stuff tastes nasty.
Okay, so we are going to move really quick here.
I hate this light. That one's on the stick.
Okay, I can't set this anymore. That's hot.
That's, oh, do I have burner running?
Yeah.
Go ahead and shut that burner. Remove the mushrooms. Just put them on top of the other bowl.
Okay, we're having a little bit of
We got a new
studio.
tripod, so.
And also, I've been having problems breathing. I don't know if it's the season or the that wants to keep falling forward. Hang on. Ooh.
So when you get a ribeye, it typically has this little lip on here. What you want to do, get your fingers under it. It's not a good piece to eat. Even when they do the steaks, this is typically removed in the store. We'll work it down to the tail. And it tucks into the tail. So we're not going to lose the tail. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut it off. We get rid of that, and that's a non-useful piece. Since I'm going to cook these for myself, it's not a big deal, but there's a little bit of the rib gristle that comes off the inside of the ribs when the cutters cut it against the bone. Sometimes you get a bone chip, stuff like that. So we usually remove that. We don't want bone chips in our steak. Want to feel it. Be sure that there's no bad pieces. Okay. Now, we're looking at this. This is the lip, what we call the lip. And we're going to separate, in this case, we're going to separate the lip from the eye. Now, this is all the eye, ribeye roast. Most ribeye roasts keep this all together. We tie it up, makes a roast, and good. But every meat cutter who's ever eaten a rib roast knows that this lip right here is the best piece of meat on the cow. So, since it's my birthday, I am going to do what I want to do. I'm going to peel this lip off. And we'll work this piece up in a minute. Now I'm just left with basically the rib eye. A lot of people like this, and this is a beautiful roast. This is one end. This is the New York ends. As you can see, it looks like a New York. This is the shoulder end. I prefer the shoulder end. That's why I'm taking the lip off. What I'll do, I'll clean up this face a little bit right here. Take a little off. Little, very little. Very, very little. Just clean it up a little bit. Because the meat's right on top. Okay, throw that around the mess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually tuck this. Make shape. And I did have my thing make my new string barrel, but I didn't make it yet. So I'm going to pull out my string. And I'm going to cut a little roast. Let's do, this is so small since I took the eye off. I'm going to do half of it as a roast. Do your string method again. Take your string. You can see how I have it across my fingers. I'm hoping you can see. I can't see. Okay. Right there. You can see where I have it across my fingers. I turn my fingers towards me and back up and pinch the string. Pull it through and cinch it on the roast. Now, if I had bones on this roast, I would have taken the eye off, and I'd be tying, I prefer to tie in between the bones. And just cinch it tight so it doesn't tear the meat. I have my wrong knife. I have so many boning knives laying around. I have a couple that I just sharpened. I might have one of the ones I didn't. What this actually looks like is a filet roast for the size of it. And since it is so small, I'll probably cook it hotter and faster. And after I face it, I'll just cook that with the meat I'm cooking in the skillet tonight. But actually, it's kind of neat doing this. You can actually make better portion size of ribeye roast and still cut them fairly thick to get them to cook in the medium rare range instead of having a giant steak that's super thin for the weight. You can have a very small steak that's very thick. I think I'll do that. That's perfect. And I'm going to make steaks off the rest of the roast. So that's perfect. We're done with string for the day. Used to do that when kids would come walking down the aisle in the store, the Mad Butcher. You can see the beautiful pieces, a little bit of fat from the tail. Little tiny ribeye. So that's going to make a really nice roast. I'll pack that up and maybe cook that on my birthday. The rest of this here, usually I'd cut the tail down. If I was in a store, I'd take it down to about here and then angle it. We'd throw all that in the grind. Since this is house stuff, I'm just going to cut steaks. My steaks are roughly 1 1/8 inch. And this is an idea for you guys during the holidays, is you may not need the whole roast for what you're going to cook, but you get the whole roast, you make some steaks, and then you pack those steaks up. You get your roast, you get your steaks. If you wanted some thin ones, you could cut them 1/4 to 1/2 inch. You want Philly cheesesteak, you can hit them 1/4 to 1/8 inch. I would recommend tying them because it makes the meat hold. Or what we used to do, if I had my slicer out, we'd take the meat and we'd wrap it in cellophane super, super tight, like one direction, then we'd do the other direction, then the other direction, and we'd press it as tight as we can. Then we throw it in the freezer, and you let it chill to where you can barely push your thumb in. So it needs to get really cold, almost frozen, not quite. Then you take it out and we put it on the slicer, and this is how you make scallopini, teriyaki, milanese, sukiyaki, which is thin sliced ribeye, and also thin sliced ribeye for Philly cheesesteaks. It's easier to cut it on a slicer, but it's so much easier if you do it that way, knife cutting it. Because the meat doesn't want to move and slide because it's a semi-frozen state, but you got to work with it pretty quick. So if you're not as proficient, you might cut like that roast I have over there in half and wrap 2 of them and do them as individual real small ones and cut them all the way down. Or just do, if you're more proficient at it and you have a slicer or some things, you might do just one roast. So let me pack up the steaks. Let me pack up the roast. And we'll get on to the next part because that's what we're going to have for. Since I have 6 steaks, I'll pack 3 to a package. remind myself to buy better quality Ziploc bags next time. This little piece is going to go over on the board. You can trim your steak how you like to trim it. I love the fat off of ribeyes, so it's kind of like when it's melt and seasoned and all that stuff. Most people cut it off to the side. I eat my ribeye fat. I'm sorry. Just one of the things I do. Okay, so those are all packed to go away. Now let's work with this. Nice and fatty. It's got a little bit of filament on it, so we're going to clean it up. You can see the rib stripes right here. Okay. Fine with that. Okay. In this piece of the ribeye, there's what we call the star. Now, the star is a big vein of fat. You see me cutting it. This guy had a bruise, so I'm probably going to cut that out. Take that off. You can see how this fat's kind of got like that. You don't see that too often. It's usually just a big chunk of fat. The meat's kind of integrating into the fat. Be interesting to cook. Maybe I'll play with that. So now I have this piece. And these are where you're going to get what we call ribeye lip steaks. Only one person I know of that sells them. Costco does sell them. And I think they're $30 a pound. I got this choice ribeye for $8 a pound. So, my whole thing, my ribeye roast, my steaks, and everything would be cheaper than 2 steaks off this piece I'm going to get right now, which I'm going to get probably 6 or 7 steaks off of. This is why I'm kind of trying to show you guys different things. You can really make your dollar stretch knowing how to do some simple stuff. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. We all do. I've been doing this for over 30 years. But making a mistake is part of learning. Apprentices that I've trained over the years have made mistakes. They've cut the wrong piece off or whatever. When you're making the wrong mistake with a ribeye, if you cut the wrong piece off, okay, we'll use that one, cut it down for steak, or we'll cut it down for fajitas or whatever, and then we go to do the next one. We know not to do that. And I've done a few. I've only done one ribeye video. I'll do another one because I'm going to do one with bones on. I need to get a hold of an export. Right now, export roasts are ridiculously expensive. Everybody wants a bone-in rib roast. Some places, some markets, actually order beef bones in. And when the bone-in rib roasts run out on the market, they'll buy boneless ribeye roast just like this. And they'll take a case of frozen bones and they'll trim them up. And they'll tie bones on their boneless roast, which isn't really right, and they'll charge you the bone-in rib roast price when the bones that you're getting didn't even come on the roast, and the boneless rib roast is cheaper. So typically when I order them, do them for myself, I'm always getting what I call export. And I know they're more expensive because it happens that way every year. And I really don't mind paying less for a boneless roast because the bones are really, everybody says it enhances the flavor. Okay, if that's what you think, that's all good and fine. The only time a bone enhances the flavor is if the bone's been cracked. And not on no rib roast has the bone been cracked. The bones are cut on one end or the other, so what it's enhancing the flavor on, you tell me. There's a little more fat against the bone. Okay, that's not a problem, but you can't season on that side either. So I think you'd be better off to seam out the rib roast, take that eye fat out, or take that eye fat out and chunk it up into a bunch of little tiny pieces because that eye fat will melt, and mix it with seasoning and then stick it back in the roast and cover it all the way down and season the bottom of the roast, and then roll it up after you tie it together, roll it over and season the top of the roast and cook it on a rack. You're doing exactly the same thing with the bones, except for now your roast has been seasoned internally, and that fat is going to melt when the roast is cooking, and it's going to flavor all that seasoning all inside your roast. And then when you start slicing it, it's just, talk about juice. It's going to be insane. You'll have juice rolling out of everywhere. And, me kind of just say fat is flavor, and that's true. Fat is flavor. And people, I don't want to eat a fatty roast. Well, you're only doing it one time a year. Come on. You're allowed to splurge once in a while. I mean, it's part of life. Most great gatherings of people have all been done around food. Families get together, have barbecues. Friends get together, have barbecues. And those are where memories are created. So the way I see it, the best thing you can do to have a good time and have everything work out, even though not everything works out for me. Even I make mistakes on stuff too. Panko was one thing. I worked it out. I just didn't do it on film. So now we have this. I need to face it. So I'll take this little end off. I'm going to cook it in the skillet. That'll go up on the board. Since this is such a little tiny piece, and I don't have any kids in the house, I'm going to butterfly this one. So we're going to get eyes. We get St. Patty's or Valentine's Day. I'll give you guys Valentine's Day dishes for you and your girl. And I'll also teach you how to make sweetheart steaks. So there's a little butterfly guy. We're just going to cut him between the strings. I've already set the thickness I want. If I don't use all these, I'll freeze a couple. And the reason I set my strings, did I face that one? Like it. So, throw that up there. The reason I set my strings as wide as I do, because that's the thickness of the meat I want. So, we have 4 in the household. So we're going to cook 4 of these tonight. Well, 4 in that odd end. And I'm going to put 5 of them in 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. So I guess I'm going to put 6 of them in a bag. So I'm going to get a bag and bag that up. And then Essie can move the camera and we can finish this dish.
Moving back now?
Yep.
Okay. We are in transit.
And I didn't get enough trim off this roast to make it worthwhile for me to use any in grind, so it's going in the trash. So, we got butter in the pan. Put a little drop of garlic oil in the pan. We're going to get this up to temperature. And while that's going, I'm going to do a little seasoning. Hopefully this board's not going to slide all over the place for me. Seasoning again, Scott Santa Maria. Now I'm going to teach you about seasoning. When we season meat, we used to season product for people all the time in meat departments. When you guys were able to get customer service, which you can't get anymore unless you're going to a service counter. We season lightly both sides. And we're done. Now what we do, pick up that piece of meat, roll it around in our hands. And what will happen is the steak will start to loosen up. It's taking that salt. And the other thing will happen is if we have too much seasoning in any one area, it's going to come off in my hands. So the meat's not going to be over seasoned. If we're seasoning a very thin piece of meat, we only want to season one side and rub both sides. These are pretty thick. I season both sides and I rub everywhere. Sides, bottom, top. These little tiny pieces, what I call samplers. You go in there. I'm going to wait for that to get a little hotter and then we're going to start. Now our zucchini is done. I'm going to set the, I've been running the oven at 350. I'm not really going to bake these much more. What I'm going to do is put them in for a few minutes to bake. And then I'm going to turn the broiler on to about 500. And I'm going to let them just char that cheese across the top. More for now. Steaks are ready to go. These guys are done. Little samplers. Alright, they're getting to where I want them. I'm going to shut them off. Isn't really the right one. I'm going to let it cook for about another minute, minute and a half. Then I'll pull them off and let them rest. If you guys have a problem with our videos being too long, I mean, I can process the meat in 3 minutes, but I can't show you how to process the meat in 3 minutes. It's just impossible.
We do have more short format stuff coming. We'll have more shorts and more edited videos. We're just doing the live stream thing. We were having audio quality issues, technical issues. We were having issues with our digital camera where when it would get to the end of a video file after 12 or 15 minutes, it had to jump to a new file, and it would, we just had stuff going on, so we're bringing you some live streams.
Also, if you guys want to see a short on a prime rib roast cut, I mean, yeah, I could do the whole roast like I did with pork. I could cut part of it and show you the next part, but you really can't get the gist of it unless you see me work the roast, because you can actually follow the video and do it at your house by following the video and actually completely cut it perfect. In a short, you're just like, I'm going to the next frame, and you'll see it where I've spread it out or moved the fat or something. It doesn't look the same anymore, and you're trying to figure out how I got there. We're going to set these off the side and let them rest for a minute. Now this is the most tender part of the ribeye. The butter's so good. It's beautiful. Got a nice char on one side. I might take this in the pan, the scrapings, for that's all going to be nice juice. I'll put that with my bacon grease, actually. Use that for cooking some more. So we're done with this. Put this off to the side. We're going to let these rest for about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I need to go check the oven. Oven's perfect, so we're shutting the oven off. Here's the cheesy taters. And we'll try to put together a final plate for you. So, I'm breaking a sweat. This will probably be my plate. I'm extra hungry. And really, I don't do much as far. I mean, I have done a lot of recipes, but these dishes are so easy. It's not like there's really a recipe to do with them. Here you go, ladies.
Okay, you want to tell us what we got here?
Okay, that's the cap or the soleus muscle, the most tender piece of the ribeye, tied into what they call pinwheel steaks or cap steaks. That's a Santa Maria potato. It's Santa Maria seasoning mixed with butter and chive and green onion. You pre-bake the potatoes, you flour them, basically cut them in fours or sixes and make them look like a flower, and spoon the butter mixture with the onion on top, and then we sprinkle cheese on top, put it in the oven for about 5-10 minutes at 350 until the cheese starts to melt, and then hit the broiler just to get a little brown on top. The other is steamed zucchini, also with the Santa Maria butter, and I showed you guys how to make that. It's a cube of butter to about 1 tablespoon, and you mix it all together, and then you can drip it on whatever you want to drip it on. You can even drip it on steak for steak butter. And last but not least, sauteed mushrooms, butter in the pan, a little shake of Santa Maria on top to help them dehydrate and to bring out some flavor. It's basically everything on that plate has been worked with Santa Maria. You can do it with Santa Maria mesquite if you'd like. Get a mesquite type steak, smoke inside the house. I just happen to really love Santa Maria, and since it's the day before my birthday, I really want something just for me. But if I do it just for me, I thought I'd bring it to you to show you how you can do it just for you and process a whole ribeye roast and get some steaks, get a roast, and actually get some pinwheel steaks as well for about the cost of just 2 pinwheel steaks. So I'm trying to make it economical so you guys can have high-end meat at not a high-end price. And once you learn how to do it, I mean, all your friends will be asking, hey, can you cut that roast for me? Can you come over? Can you do this? We get close to the holidays, I'll do a video on how to pick a roast and how to pick different types of meat. And we'll work on that as well. And what choices you have, what options are available. So this is Dan from Chasing the Missing Link. This is our dish for the night. I hope you like and subscribe to the videos. Santa Maria seasoning is in Albertsons and Safeway. Some of the variants aren't. We're trying to get it where they stock more of the stuff here in Roseburg. I keep a tackle box version in my tackle box for whatever I run across at any given time. I mean, you could carry a tackle box version and a little squeezed lemon because they don't have to be refrigerated, and a bowl and a skillet, and then just pick up tortillas and you got fajitas on the fly. So there's a lot of ways to do different things that if you're out and about and you want to make something cool and just sit by the river and kick it and have a nice lunch, and I mean, everybody around you for a good mile will smell it and be going, wow, what are you cooking? Hey, what's that? I've done it many times. So, but we're going to get some giveaways. I'm going to do some stuff with Santa Maria. We're going to do some OXO product giveaways when we hit our 500 subscriber mark. And our 100 subscriber mark, sorry. And at 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away at least 1 Z-Grills, maybe up to 3, maybe 1 full size, like I have a flagship grill, a 4DE, or something similar, and then maybe 2 smaller grills that you could use on an apartment or a patio, or maybe even camp with it. So that's kind of, we have to discuss that when we get to the time. So if you want to look up Z Grills online, they have a lot of killer deals on stuff. I mean, their grills are good quality. If you have a problem with it, all you got to do is call them up. It's a quick fix on most stuff. Sometimes just an error code you have to clear, or if it's something that is a real problem, they will ship you a new grill. They will not hesitate. Now, you try and deal with some of the other manufacturers like Big T and stuff like that. They're going to want you to pack up your grill, probably send it back, break it down, do pieces. Z Grills was making parts for some of the other manufacturers for their stuff because they couldn't get stuff. Z Grills backs with a 3-year warranty on all grills. So if you really want to get something nice and not spend a ton of money and have something good, and they're worthwhile to take a look at, because I run it all the time. We ran almost 6 weeks straight of everything as a grill because it was so hot you didn't want to heat up the house. Now we got rain. I don't mind if it's cold. I'll go out and grill all day long. I'll smoke and everything. But the rain is coming through the porch, and everything I have out there, it's like monsoon. It's like victory at sea. Rain's coming through your face and everything. You'd have to have like a poncho on, like you're sitting out hunting deer next to a tree, full rain gear, and maybe play a deck of cards and have a cold beer or something to warm you up a bit. But, well, and you can put a little of that on, I was thinking. I forgot, good old Strictly Pepper. And Essie's actually going to shake a little Strictly Pepper on the zucchini because I absolutely forgot. I usually shake a little Strictly Pepper on everything. It's a combination of rainbow peppercorns and crushed red pepper to give it a little kick. And it's just like it says, it's strictly pepper, but each pepper has a unique flavor. So it gives you accent flavors on your dish you're not going to get with just regular black pepper, which is kind of neat. Actually, when I do a bacon, I'm thinking of doing bacon maybe in December. I might have them send me a can of Strictly Pepper, and I'll brine cure the bacon. And after I brine cure the bacon, I'll just pepper it with Strictly Pepper on both sides and smoke it. Do a natural brine, kosher salt, apple cider, and just wrap it up and soak it for 3-4 days, and then take it off, rinse it off, put what outer seasoning I want on it, and we'll smoke it, and I'll make actually slab bacon. So that's it for tonight. Ribeye cap steaks, cheesy taters, and zooks, all done with Santa Maria in different ways. And don't forget the sauteed mushrooms. Those are going to be awesome. Like and subscribe. Comments are cool. Remember, Scott's Food Products is in your local Albertsons and Safeway. You can also order it online. And if you go to my page soon, I should have a discount coupon for Scott's. It's not up there yet. I should get it probably this week or early next week if you want to try some other product. Now, for hunters in the Oregon area and some of the guys that fish, if you hook up with me, I usually have seasonings in the truck, which is kind of funny. I have knives in the truck. I have everything in the truck. If we want to cook something on the fly, don't be surprised if I break out some seasonings and we cook on the fly, because it's one of the things I do often. So this is Dan from Chasing the Missing Link, and we'll catch up with you. I think we're doing shorts tomorrow, so Saturday for my birthday, we might be doing something interesting, and we might live stream. And I don't care if it's raining. I'll be on the porch. I'll put rain gear on.
Thank you, everybody who has subscribed. We will hit you back with the resubs here. Website is coming. Recipes are coming. And we're going to get all that going over the next couple days. I've been delayed on website, domain, things like that. He's about to ring the dinner bell, so we're going to go. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. Thanks.